Hello, Grats and Gits, and welcome back to Happy Crop and War Gaming. Guys, I have a really badass list I want to talk about today. This is one of the lists that showed up at the World Championships of Warhammer. It actually had a pretty good run, but the idea behind the list is such a good example of list building. I really want to bring it up to all of you so that it can help you in your list building pursuits so that you can come up with brilliance of your own. So, just a really big shout out to the founder of this list. His name was Joel Wilson, and he actually had a great run at the WCW. So, I'm gonna run through like what his exactly what his matchups were. I'm gonna run up what his successes were, what his failures were. I'm gonna talk about the list in detail, how it actually operates, so that you can mimic it in your own brilliance. So, let's just jump right into this bad boy. First thing, this list is brand stinking new to the Necrons competitive scene. And this is really cool. So Necrons have been one of those armies that has just been unbelievably good the entire edition. Back in Index times, when we were in the Awakened Dynasty, they were unkillable. They were a super powerful army. Then we ran into Codex, where their Hypercrypt came around, and you had 3-inch Deep Strike and Satans all over the place, which was just busted strong. Then you had the Canoptic Court, which had Wraiths, which were unreasonably unkillable, stacked with just crazy pressure. And now we actually have an Obedience Phalanx option as well. Hypercrypt, Canoptic Court, and Awakened Dynasty are all still good options, but this is the first real time that I have seen a super good Obedience Phalanx, and I'm really excited to see what people start developing across the internet with it as well. So let's just talk about what the list is, and then I'm going to talk about how the list operates. I'm going to talk about what it won into, what it lost into. I'm going to talk about strengths, weaknesses, and I'm going to kind of give you an idea of how to run it on the table so that you can figure out how to do really cool things as well. All right, what is this list? Once again, this was from Mr. Joel Wilson, who just did a fantastic job. And I actually got to meet him. It was a pleasure getting to meet him. Nice, super nice guy. He played Shetil in the round 3, I believe. So really liked listening to him talk about how the list operates, and I'm happy to share that with you guys. So here it is. It's Obedience Phalanx. And Obedience Phalanx gets to choose a Lich Guard or a Triarch unit, and that in every single command phase, you get to choose one of your enemy units and give those units with the specific keywords +1 to wound. And in this army, the only units that get the specific keyword will be the Silent King and the Triarch Praetorians, which actually seems a little bit strange right off the bat that you're only using 2 units to get the detachment special rule. But trust me, it works, and I'm going to break it down for you right now. So we have the Silent King. Silent King's a rock star. He's awesome. There's basically no scenario where the Silent King's not good. He's not an auto include, but he is always freaking good. He's going to either give away the aura of ignore all modifiers, which is unreasonably strong in this game, or he's going to be giving an aura of reroll hits and wound rolls of 1, which really make his 2 DDAs just spicy strong with the shooting. All right. Then he's running 1 Technomancer. Those are the only 2 characters he has in the army. So he's going to go with 3 times Canoptic Reanimators. Now, this is actually a very fascinating choice, and it is the core of what makes this army spin. So, when you're looking at Reanimators, we haven't really seen a lot of Reanimators since Index times. You might see 1 pop up here and there when we are talking about the Awakened Dynasty, but to see 3 in this army, it is super interesting, but it's also very good. And let me kind of explain why it's so freaking good. Well, these things are hard to kill. They're going to be a higher toughness. They're going to be like a 3-up armor save. They have a 4-up feel no pain with a 4-up invulnerable save. These things don't necessarily die. You want to shoot your Riptide into a Reanimator? You better be shooting 3 if you think you're going to kill it. It's that tough, which means oftentimes your opponent is not going to be able to dedicate the firepower into the Reanimators it needs to dedicate into the Reanimators, and it's going to actually have to shoot other things, which is a big problem because then the Reanimators are going to be reanimating all of the Necrons units that you didn't kill, which is it's brutal. So anyway, we then have 1 unit of 6 Wraiths. It's not the same pressure that we're used to with, like, say, your Canoptic Courts, where we're running 3 of these Wraith bricks, but 1 unit is still exceptionally durable, especially when you're going to have a Canoptic Reanimator running up behind it, letting it heal for 2d3 in your command phase, and then the Technomancer will heal another model. The regeneration is stupid. Then we're going to have 1 Doom Scythe. Now, this was a really interesting pick, and I'm not sure that it was optimal, but heck, Joel had a great performance, and for right now, I'm going to trust him on this one. So the Doom Scythe is, well, it's a head scratcher because most of your flying units of your aircrafts aren't that great in the game. Well, this guy's still going to be getting his reroll 1s to hit and wound from a Silent King's aura, and he ignores all true line of sight because aircrafts functionally, they essentially function the same way towering functioned at the beginning of the game. So it really makes it almost impossible to hide from it, which can just allow them to spike crazy damage with that 3-shot sustained D3 las cannon, more or less, that it has. It's actually a pretty interesting tech piece. It's pretty dang expensive at 230, but the fact that it's going to be reanimating gives it the ability to really survive quite a bit. So the Doom Scythe is a little interesting. We have 2 Doomsday Arcs. Doomsday Arcs just rock. There's basically no world where you don't want them in a Necron's army. 1 unit of Flayed Ones, because honestly, having a infiltration unit is just very powerful to either deny your opponent's infiltrators or just to get you a early board presence, especially if you're trying to do something like a terraform so that you can get some actions done early game. And then we're going to have 1 unit of Tomb Blades for some fast action monkeys and 1 10-man squad of Triarch Praetorians. Now, he is taking the pistols and the swords with this, and he's not doing the rods. So this was a pick that a lot of people were kind of curious of. Why don't you run the Lich Guard? Well, the Praetorians, they move 10 inches. They actually have some reasonable shooting. When you stack the +1 to wound on them, they're hitting just as hard as your Lich Guard are, and they're fast. The 10 inches is fast, and they have deep strike, which allows them to actually use these Praetorians as like a round 3 bully. Especially, ideally, if they can actually get them within range of a Reanimator, it makes it very challenging to deal with them as well. So I actually find the Praetorians actually a very, very interesting pick, and I rather like them quite a bit. So let's talk about some of the mechanics of this army now. Well, first off, let's go through the wins losses. Okay, round number 1, he went 100 to 74 into a Cal Yan Tau. Whenever you get that good a score into Cal Yan, well, basically the way you have to play Cal Yan is you got to pressure them early because they will be able to kill anything late game, and their burst damage comes off the charts. So he got 100 points, and it's like, good luck catching up to me. Round 2, he goes into a guard list, which was 3 tank commanders and 3 Leman Russes. So it was very, very tank heavy, which means it was very, very killy heavy. And for whatever reason, they still couldn't push through this exceptionally tough Necrons list. And I'm going to talk about why in just a moment. Round 3, he went into Admech, which was Shetel. And you guys know Shetel is a common guest to the show. He's one of my best friends. He's the admin of our Discord, the Happy Crumping Wargaming Discord, which, by the way, you need to hop in because we're breaking down some of these lists in really, really good detail over there so that people can learn the game a lot faster and a lot better. Then in round 4, he suffered his first loss. And this was against Space Wolves, which was a really interesting Space Wolves army, actually. It was Wolf Jail with fire support. So it was just 2 units of the Wolves, but then it also had like 2 Lancers and a Vindicator and some actually reasonable shooting. That was a really interesting lineup there. Now, I understand why this army might be weak to Space Wolf Jail armies in general. Well, basically, these bad boys, they just run up the field, and they're going to put the pressure on you turn 1. And with the shooting, they're going to be able to handle things that want to fall back. I assume the Space Wolves went first here. Had they gone second, I don't think it would look like this. Then we're going to have round 5, which was a 75 to 75 draw. It was Necrons into Necrons. He was going into Hypercrypt with double Satan and the King. So jumpy, jumpy, jumpy. So basically, the Hypercrypt in this matchup would have a mobility advantage, but the Obesian's Phalanx will have a durability advantage. Then in round 6, we got another win, or Joel got another win, 92 into 85 into Ret Cadre Tau. Now, actually, Ret Cadre Tau is an army that I really struggle against, so it's something that I probably need to focus on how to handle that style army quite a little bit more. But great showing so far. And then in round 7, he went 75-77 for a 2-point loss into another Necrons, which was once again a double Satan Hypercrypt list. And then in the last round, he got smashed by the Demons, which was a Shalaxi and Screamers spam list. Not sure how all of those went. So let's talk about some of the ways that this army operates, how you can utilize it, and why it's brilliant. All right, so how does this thing actually freaking work? All right, effectively in the army, only the Praetorians and the King the King and the Praetorians are the only 2 units that are going to be getting the +1 to wound from the detachment rules. But then we start looking at what do these strats do for the army. Your Canoptic Reanimators are unreasonably difficult to kill when you stack them with that super, super sweet -1 damage stratagem. This actually gets a little bit silly. So these guys get to toughness 6, 3-up armor save, 4-up invulnerable save, and a 4-up feel no pain. Sorry, not a 4-up invulnerable save. It's just a 4-up feel no pain. So 3-up armor save, 6 wounds, 4-up feel no pain. This can be a very challenging model to kill. I know I said it was invulnerable save. Forgive me, taking that back. It's not an invulnerable save. It'll be okay. But when they activate these things, it really will allow people to regenerate quite a bit. And don't forget, they're within the range of their own aura for their own. So they're going to be also regenerating 2d3s every wounds every single turn. And for only 75 points, this unit suddenly has a ton of value. So he's never going to be struggling for having a unit that can just stand on objective. He's never going to be struggling for a unit that can do an action for him, because he always has these 3 units that are going to be in positions to do so. You stack them with a -1 damage, like I said. Then we can also look at how freaking tough can the king be in this attachment. So we can get the king. This guy is going to get a -1 damage strat. So suddenly his 16 wounds go a lot further than they previously did. And this -1 damage strat also works on the Miniers, remember? He's going to be regenerating 2d3. He's going to have a 2-up armor save. He's going to have a 4-up invulnerable save. And since he has a Canoptic Spider nearby, he's going to have a 6-up Field of Pain or a 5-up against mortals. This guy becomes about one of the tankiest things in the freaking game. It also makes him much less susceptible to a lot of the damaging things out there. So he's no longer scared of a Dante with Sanguinary Guard Bomb. He's no longer scared of knobs. He's no longer scared of so many things that he was previously had to be really careful on his positioning for. All right, so basically what he's going to do here, he's going to take 1 Reanimator. He's going to run it with the Wraiths. So wherever the Wraiths go, 1 Reanimator is just advancing and making a beeline. Just make sure that they stay within 3 inches of those Wraiths. One's going to stay nearest to the king, and one's going to be floating, ideally positioning itself close to wherever the Praetorians want to come down later in the game. Those Reanimators are always going to be doing actions. He also has the Flayed ones that can do actions. He also has the Tomb Blades that can do actions. The king is going to have DDAs floating nearby him, and that Doom Scythe probably coming in off the board, ideally fairly close to the king, so that they can benefit from the reroll 1s to hit and wound aura. So that is basically how the army is going here. And don't forget, the king and the Praetorians actually get to steal objectives in a really, really fantastic kind of way. Because let me just read this pretty amazing stratagem to you. Hold on, I think I just grabbed the wrong one. Here we go. So this stratagem, Territorial Obsession, which is 1 CP. You can target 1 Lich Guard or Triarch unit, and the Praetorians and the King are Triarch units. Until the start of your next command phase, add 1 to the OC characteristic of models in your unit. If your unit has the vehicle keyword, which the Silent King does, add 3 to the OC characteristic instead. Now, what does that mean? If you have both your Miniers alive, you can pop this stratagem for 1 CP, and suddenly the king and his 2 Miniers gain 9 freaking OC. So they can steal objectives like it's no one's business. And this is something that people really are not paying attention to. Pressure. All right. So this army operates as a pseudo pressure list. The Wraiths are a huge distraction Carnifex. They're still unreasonably tough, especially when you stack onto their healing 2d3 models and then or resurrecting 2d3 wounds, and then the Technomancer healing a model every command phase as well. So I know in Shettel's matchup, he was able to whittle that unit down to 1 Wraith, and then the unit at the end of the game was 6 Wraiths. Because if you cannot burst this unit down, probably don't even bother killing it, because if you can't handle it in one go, it's going to be a huge, huge nightmare for you. Praetorians are typically going to be used as a round 3 Shock Assault unit. So the Wraiths are going to be moving up, the King's going to be moving up, he's going to be shooting with the DDAs to softening some of your big things, and the Praetorians are going to be coming in as a Rapid Ingress or a Deep Strike, where, don't forget, they also get to reroll charge rolls, so they have like a 47% chance of making that 9-inch charge, deep strike charge, that they can just really cause a big problem in your backlines where you don't have the pressure to handle them later on. They're not sprinting the Triarchs up the board. If you do it that way, you're probably just going to die. So it is going to be a later game bully unit, all right? And then the king is going to be exceptionally aggressive in this army most of the time. Certain armies, maybe not as aggressive, but most of the time, very, very aggressive. Guys, you're going to have a 2-up armor save, a 4-up invulnerable save, a 6-up Feel No Pain, and -1 damage. Plus, you're likely going to be healing 2d3 wounds every single turn or every single battle round, because your Reanimator is going to be close by. This profile doesn't freaking die. It makes the king one heck of a tank. All right, so how would you deal with this army if you were playing against it? Burst damage is the name of the game. You have to be able to wipe things in one round. This army really personifies the I will never die aspect of Necrons. And if you cannot handle that, then you are going to seriously, seriously struggle. So if you don't have any Death Star units that can just wipe at something, then you're really seriously going to have to focus your army into killing just 1 unit at a time. So basically, if you're deciding that the wraiths are going to die, you need to make sure your entire army kills those wraiths, because if you let one live, the entire unit's going to come back and your game plan is just thrown out through the window and you're going to lose the game. Focusing reanimators is great because if you kill the reanimators, a lot of the way the army functions is going to go out the window. But if you do that in the meantime, his army is just going to move up and kill all the things that you're using to kill the reanimators, and it's not reliable because of that stinking 4-up Fiona Pain. It's a big, big problem. I would say that this army probably tends to be slightly weaker into armies that have a lot of jank and armies that have a lot of mid-range burst damage. So we're looking at like some of your maybe perhaps some of your sisters with all the melters that they can put out and the miracle dice. Maybe some of your like demons have all the jank in the world. So I would say that these armies don't necessarily like all the mid-range burst stuff, and that's really where it's going to be weakness. It's going to laugh at your long range tech. So if you have a big Lancer gun line, that's going to be a big problem for it. And it's not going to worry about much melee tech because your DDAs love freaking assault infantry. And just last thing in this army, guys, the king is almost always giving reroll hits and wounds of 1 instead of ignore modifiers. I tend to find that is one that people tend to overlook. Guys, this army freaking rocks. Give it a try. Shout out to Joel Wilson for coming up with something super, super cool. Let me know how you like the army in the comments down below. Until next time, crump on.